Welcome to this special presentation from Revival Waves of Glory Ministries in Bill Vincent. Today, we're diving deep, and I mean really deep, into a topic that has fascinated Christians for generations: the rapture. Is it a sudden escape before things get bad, or is it the grand finale after a period of intense trial? We're going to explore the arguments laid out in Bill Vincent's comprehensive book, The Rapture, which really challenges some of the most popular ideas about the end times.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get right to the heart of the debate itself. Then, we'll walk through the specific post-tribulation timeline that the author lays out. After that, we'll look at the key scriptures he uses to build his case. And finally, we'll talk about why this whole thing, this question of timing, actually matters for believers living right now.
Okay, let's jump in. At the end of the day, the core of this whole debate isn't really about if the rapture is going to happen. For those who believe in it, the real question, the one that causes all the division, is simply when. It all comes down to timing.
And you might be thinking, what's the big deal? Well, as we're about to see through the lens of this book, the answer to that one question completely changes how you see the end times. More than that, it changes how you think about being prepared for what's to come. It's the central mystery we're unpacking today.
Now, a lot of you have probably heard this one before. It's the pre-tribulation view. It's the idea that believers will be whisked away, taken right off the planet before a 7-year period of terrible suffering called the tribulation begins. You know, it's a message of comfort, an escape plan, and it's been a really popular teaching for a long time.
But here's where Bill Vincent's work really challenges the status quo. He basically says, hold on a minute, let's reread the fine print. The book's entire argument is that if you carefully connect all the prophetic dots in the Bible, a very different picture starts to take shape, one that doesn't involve an early exit.
So if the rapture doesn't happen before the tribulation, how does this different sequence of events work? Well, the book argues that the whole timeline is anchored to a powerful prophecy way back in the Old Testament, in the book of Daniel. This prophecy basically sets the prophetic clock for the final years.
And it all hinges on something called Daniel's 70th week. This is a prophesied 7-year period. But the absolutely critical detail, according to Vincent, is that this 7-year block is split perfectly in half. 2 distinct periods, each lasting 3.5 years.
Okay, check out how this timeline unfolds. It kicks off with a peace covenant involving Israel. That starts the first 3.5 years, which Jesus called the beginning of sorrows. But the real turning point, the flashpoint, happens right at the midpoint, something called the abomination of desolation. The author argues this event, where the Antichrist defiles the Holy Temple, is the trigger that kicks off the final, intense 3.5-year period known as the Great Tribulation. And the rapture? In this view, it happens at the very end of it all, at Christ's return. Now, this next point is absolutely crucial to understanding the book's argument. How does the author define the Great Tribulation? He makes it crystal clear. This is not the wrath of God. Citing Revelation chapter 12, he says this is a period of Satan's wrath, an all-out persecution against God's people on earth because the devil knows his time is almost up.
And that period of Satan's wrath is completely different from what comes next, the day of the Lord. The book presents this as a separate event that happens after the Great Tribulation and the Rapture. This is God's wrath, his divine judgment, but it's poured out on a wicked and unrepentant world, not on his people. Making that distinction is absolutely fundamental to the whole post-tribulation argument.
All right, so you've heard the timeline, but a timeline is just a theory without evidence, right? So what scriptures does the author actually point to? This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of the biblical text that he says explicitly lay out this sequence of events.
The book's case really hinges on several key passages, but there are 2 in particular that are presented as being just about as clear and direct as you can get, and they seem to fly right in the face of a pre-tribulation timeline.
The first one comes from the Apostle Paul. He tells the Thessalonian church, hey, don't let anyone deceive you. He says that the day of Christ, which includes the gathering of believers, won't happen until 2 other things happen first: a great falling away from the faith and the revealing of the Antichrist, who he calls the man of sin. The logic is simple. If the Antichrist has to be revealed before that day, then the rapture can't happen before he's on the world stage.
But the next passage is what the author considers the ultimate proof. It's the words of Jesus himself in Matthew 24. And the sequence couldn't be clearer. He says, first, the tribulation happens. Then there are signs in the sun, moon, and stars. And then the Son of Man comes and gathers his elect. I mean, the phrase immediately after the tribulation is pretty hard to argue with.
And there's more. The book of Revelation seems to add even more weight to this view. You see this huge crowd of believers in heaven, and when John asks who they are, the answer is direct. These are the ones who have come out of the Great Tribulation. It doesn't say they escaped it, it says they came out of it. Then you see the souls of those who were martyred by the Antichrist taking part in the first resurrection, an event that's directly tied to the rapture. The implication is undeniable. They had to be on earth during the tribulation to go through it. You can find more insights like this on the author's website, revivalwaysofgloryministries.com.
So all this brings us to the big "so what" question. Why does this even matter? Is this just a debate for theologians? Well, according to the source, absolutely not. The difference between these two timelines has massive, real-world implications for how we live out our faith today.
Let's just put them side by side. On one hand, the pre-tribulation view naturally focuses on escape. The core message is comfort. You'll be removed before the suffering begins. But on the other hand, the post-tribulation view presented in this book shifts the entire focus to endurance. The message isn't about getting out of the storm. It's about being spiritually prepared to be faithful right in the middle of it.
And the author is really direct about his concerns here. He argues that the popular pre-tribulation teaching, while probably well-intentioned, has created a false sense of security for many people. He sees a real danger that if believers are only taught to expect an escape, they'll be completely blindsided and unprepared, spiritually and mentally, for the very persecution that he believes the Bible clearly says is coming.
So really, the book's final conclusion is a powerful call to action. It argues that the Bible's prophetic message isn't about a secret escape hatch. It's about a public, powerful display of faithfulness. It's a call to start building the kind of deep, unshakable faith that can not only survive the darkest times, but can actually shine brightly in them.
And that leaves us with this one powerful question to think about. Is the ultimate promise of our faith an exemption from the trial, or is it the supernatural strength to endure it? The way you answer that really does shape everything. For more incredible resources from author Bill Vincent, be sure to visit revivalwavesofgloryministries.com. Thank you for listening to the Deep Dive Podcast.